What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday and welcome to the Early Edge. Did you want to talk golf today? Did you want to talk NCAA college hoops? Did you want to talk NFL, soccer, NBA? Well, this is the show for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an all-star crew and we've got all-star picks. Speaking of picks, before we bring in the stars of the show, how did we do yesterday? This is the definition of middling. 3-3, losing some juice here. I lost the Kentucky play. Listen, I'll be straight up. Florida played really well. This looks like it was a bad pick. Even though Kentucky did have a 4-point lead with 25 seconds left, they ended up giving it up and losing outright in overtime. We're going to do better today on this screen. We're going to do better than 3-3. And how do we do that? We got to bring in the maestro. We got to bring in Propstarz. We got to bring in Buckets. And we got to bring in myself to just pump this crew up. 3-3, you know, it's not terrible, but it's not great. Buckets, you're giving me the wave. I got to say hi to you first. How you doing, sir?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't calling you out or anything. I was just saying howdy do to everyone. 3-3 is fine, but we can definitely do better. And I'm going to do my part to help us do better on the show, Sia.
Maestro, how you doing today? You know, we were talking pre-show, and I don't know. Listen, I know you don't want to necessarily break any news right now because maybe we want to break it later. But first of all, I'm excited because we're about to talk some NFL. So, A, how you doing? And B, is there something coming down the pipe with SportsLine?
Yeah, Sia, it's great to see you guys. Could not be more excited about somebody that we're bringing onto the team. I believe he will debut next week. It's the perfect time to bring him on because there's nobody better that I know in college basketball. He's a guy that I've known for a while, but he's finally able to join us at SportsLine. I can't wait for him to share his content on the site, on the edge, and he will have a full 2 months of college hoops to get going with.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with this person you're referring to, and I can vouch for the fact that this guy is completely legit. Speaking of guys that are completely legit, Propstarz, I got to ask how you're doing. And it's Thursday, which to me means maybe, perhaps, we have a SportsLine article with some NBA props coming out today.
We do indeed, Sia, and good morning. Good morning, Maestro. Good morning, Buckets. Fired up, coming off of a 4-1 day on the site last night. I will have an NBA article that will be out later this morning, and then next week, my article will actually be coming out not twice a week, but Monday through Friday. So 5 days a week for me. And I'm just fired up in the thick of the NBA season.
By the way, props to the chat, because speaking of props to the chat. You guys are super active as usual. Stephen Max says Amax better be coming back in time for baseball. That sounded like a demand. Well, your demand is heard and he will be back for baseball. So don't you worry about that. We really miss Amax on this show. He'll be back before you know it. Again, hit the like button if you haven't already. Please subscribe to SportsLine, rate and review SportsLine on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you listen to this show. Please rate and review. That would be really helpful. And again, the like button is always helpful for me and this crew. Okay, let's get things started. I want to go sport by sport here. And let's start with maybe the biggest thing that we have on the table. It's not today. We'll get to picks from today, but let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Maestro, this line moving up to 2. I mean, listen, it was 2.5 and it was down to 1.5. 49ers -2. Now, we don't need to get into a discussion right now because we have a week full of content that we've done a little bit already. We're going to do a little bit more on the spread and the sides and the props. But let's talk about a prop that you have in this game.
Yeah, and you said it's still a while away, but these props are moving, so there's no reason to wait. In fact, the one I'm on, Deebo Samuel over receiving yards, over 57.5, it's already on the rise because I think the consensus is, at least among the sharp people that I talk to, is that this is a Deebo Samuel game and not a Brandon Ayuk game. Deebo Samuel looks totally healthy. He broke 6 tackles in that NFC title game. He averaged over 8 yards after the catch so far in the playoffs. And when they were down 24-7 at halftime, what did they do? They came out, they ran the ball to McCaffrey, then they threw it to Deebo. Then they threw it to Deebo again. He had 6 catches in the second half as they came back. We know how great the Chiefs' outside corners are, but they line Deebo Samuel up all over the formation. They will get him the quick throws. And I know he'll probably have a couple carries, but I think they will use him more as a receiver, as we've seen in the postseason.
I love this play. And by the way, JB, so Proppy, you have a prop that you want to give out too. But before you get there, JB says what Propstarz is doing in the prop game is otherworldly. That is the perfect word for what Propstarz is doing. If you guys aren't following Propstarz in terms of his picks on this show and on SportsLine, you're just completely missing out. This guy is always red hot, and that continues through the NBA season. Can I just say something before we go to Proppy's pick, though? Because Proppy, you have a receiver prop to give out on this show, too, before we get to some golf, which I know a lot of people are waiting for. Can I just say, the little promo for me and Katie Mox, actually. I'm going to be on Moxie Bets later on this morning at 11:30 this morning. I say that because one of the props I'm going to give out on that show pertains to Deebo Samuel. And I'm just going to share it early. Like, don't tell anybody. Don't tell Katie. Everybody kind of bring it in. I'm going to say this softly. You know who I like for most receiving yards in the Super Bowl at plus 425? Larry, guess who?
Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel at plus 425. Not much competition when it comes to, okay, Rashee Rice, of course, Travis Kelce. I guess you could make an argument for Christian McCaffrey, maybe Brandon Ayuk. I really like the yak from Deebo Samuel. I really like how he sets up in the short and intermediate game and what he can do after the catch. I think plus 425 is a really good number. And by the way, one of the people he's competing with, it's Brandon Ayuk. And Proppy, you think Brandon Ayuk might have an okay game, but maybe not a huge game. Talk to us about your prop.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough. I think he's going to have I think he's going to struggle in the Super Bowl. Long story short, so I'm double dipping actually on Brandon Ayuk. I'm fading him in a variety of ways, but I really like taking his under 4.5 receptions. Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk have not been on the same page in the postseason. 14 targets, which Ayuk has turned into 6 receptions for just 100 yards, and we know 50 of those yards came on a play where a football bounced off of a defensive back's helmet, and Ayuk was very lucky to come down with a 50-yard reception. So if you take that away, it's 14 targets for 5 receptions for just 50 yards against Green Bay and Detroit, who are both obviously subpar pass defenses. Now he's going to face the vaunted Chiefs pass defense, which has absolutely been dominant all season long, especially down the stretch. They rank 3rd in EPA allowed per dropback, second in dropback success percentage. They do not allow explosive plays down the field. They are very good against first reads as well, and they cover the splash zone. With Steve Spagnuolo, that's the emphasis of the defense, is to take away deep down the middle of the field, which is where Ayuk does the majority of his damage. The Chiefs allowed to surrender the 4th fewest yards to opposing wide receivers in the regular season. So I just do not see a lot of volume to Ayuk in this matchup. I really think it does set up nicely for Deebo. I like Larry's play quite a bit. 5 receptions, even when things are going well for Ayuk, in good matchups is a big ask for him. He does his damage, again, deep down the middle of the field, so typically doesn't receive a lot of volume. Only had double-digit targets one time this entire season, so I think it's a really good spot to fade Ayuk, who I think is a great real-life player, but this is just a really difficult matchup against this Chiefs pass defense, which has been elite all season long.
Kind of messed up because Proppy said he really liked Larry's play, but Buckets, did you catch that? Did you catch the shade? He said, I really like Maestro's play, but he didn't really say anything about my plus 425 play. What do you think about that?
You talking to me?
Yes.
If we're talking Super Bowl. See, I zoned out for the last 2 minutes. I have no idea what was said. I was setting lineups for my football plays later. Yeah, don't ask me about that.
Well, if Buckets wanted to make football plays, I'll say this. One place he could go is BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get $158 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $5, and you will receive $158 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome. With bonus code EDGE158, that's EDGE158. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of golf talk in the chat. And listen, it was, I think, Taylor DeHart that said, hey, I'm being really careful with PGA this weekend. And I tweeted about this yesterday. I want everybody to know the weather is treacherous. They might not even do the 4 rounds. Like, this could go just 3 rounds because of what's going to happen on Sunday and potentially Monday. Some people being a little bit cautious with their bankroll. I certainly encourage that if that's what you want to do. But I just wanted to point that out. Weather is going to be treacherous, but that doesn't mean I don't have first round leader picks. It doesn't mean I don't have a round 1 matchup. It doesn't mean we didn't do the early wedge at 7:00 on Tuesday night and give a host of outrights and first round leaders. Well, not first round leaders, and matchups and tournament matchups and things of that nature, top 30s. So I got to give out a matchup for round 1, and I'm going to do it right after this break.
Touchdown. The 49ers are going back to the Super Bowl. The champs are still in it, headed to Vegas.
ladies and gentlemen, if you think it's fun to just sprinkle just a little bit on first round leaders week to week in the PGA in PGA, please hit the like button. If you think that's fun, please hit the like button because I'm about to give out a few first round leaders on each of the 2 courses that we're going to see today. We're going to see Pebble Beach. We're going to see Spyglass Hill. I have 3 for each, and in an 80-person tournament, 3 for each course is kind of a lot. So listen, I'm not encouraging everybody to necessarily bet on all 3. If you wanted to pick 2 or 3 out of these that you like the most, feel free. These are just the 3 that I would like to bet here. So Pebble Beach, I'm going with Eric Cole. This guy throws darts. Pebble Beach is a pretty good course fit. He wasn't good last week. I really think Eric Cole can shine, particularly in one round. Plus 2,200, a good number. By the way, these numbers are going to be shorter because there's 2 courses, right? And so we have a winner on one, a winner on the other. With 80 people, we're only going to have 40 on each course, as opposed to normally in a full field, you have 156 players on one course. So the odds aren't going to be as long as normal. Brendan Todd, an underwhelming name, but at plus 3,000. This is a perfect course fit. He was second here last year. He was 16th the year before. He's kind of a boring name. He's got a boring game, but that is perfect for Pebble Beach. You don't need to be long off the tee. You need to be a plotter. You need to be positional. You need to get hot on approach and good with the short game. Todd checks all those boxes. And then this is a left field play that you can completely disregard if you want. Brandon Wu is not a very good golfer compared to the names on this screen, but he's trending in a direction that I don't think people are noticing. Honestly, I think this should probably be longer than 40-1, but I'll take it at 40-1 because I got a feeling about Brandon Wu. But again, if you were to erase one of these 6 names, it would probably be Brandon Wu that maybe not worth the sprinkle. So I just kind of wanted to exercise caution with that statement. Justin Thomas on Spyglass Hill. Justin Thomas is hot. He's one of my outrights. Mike McClure likes him in a matchup against Ludwig Aberg. I really like Justin Thomas in this tournament, including in round 1. Brian Harmon, I think he's a perfect course fit. I think this number is too long. His outright number, which is 90-1, which I put out on the early wedge and in my SportsLine article, that number's too long. This guy won the Open Championship in tough conditions just 7 months ago. Tough conditions this weekend. I think he can excel. 35-1 I like. And then Sepp Straka, this is a guy that I don't trust over 4 rounds. I don't know that I trust him over 1 round, but he has been known to spike for 1 singular round. And if he gets hot on approach, and if he's dialed in and doesn't have to use the short game, because that's where he struggles, he can get hot with the putter. So 35-1 is certainly a fair number at Spyglass Hill. All right. Probably took too much of your time explaining each of those first round leaders. So I'll be quick with my round 1 matchup. This round 1 matchup is going to look really familiar to you because it's the same as my tournament matchup. We don't always get this luxury where we have a tournament matchup that's the same as the round 1 matchup. But here we are. Sam Burns minus 120 over Cam Young. If you watch the early wedge, if you read my SportsLine article, this is one of my 2 matchups that I gave out. I think Cam Young is struggling. The metrics back that up. I don't think he's found his game, whereas Sam Burns hasn't been the typical Sam Burns, but lately we've seen a spike from Sam Burns. And they, by the way, in round 1, they start off on Spyglass Hill. That's technically probably the harder of the 2 courses. That is always contingent upon the wind, because sometimes when the wind's not at play, Spyglass can be a sort of a different ball game. But the long story short is I think Cam Young's going to struggle. He's been struggling, and Sam Burns has really flashed as of late. I think they'll both keep it in the – well, I think Sam Burns is going to keep it in the fairway, and he'll be much more dialed in with the short game and on approach. So give me Sam Burns at minus 120 over Cam Young. Again, I have this as a tournament matchup and a round 1 matchup. All right. Those are my golf picks for now. Again, watch the early wedge. This thing doesn't start for another hour and a half. So you can read my SportsLine article. You can still catch the early wedge with me and EC and Patrick McDonald and get even more picks if you've missed that. That's on the SportsLine YouTube channel. It's in your podcast feed, all of those things. Okay, Proppy, everybody's singing your praises in the NBA, and deservedly so. You absolutely crush in your article on the early edge. Anything you touch seems to turn to gold. So let's talk about a prop you have in the NBA.
Indeed, Sia. Yeah, I'm going to fade Jaren Jackson, the reigning defensive player of the year. We're going to go under 31.5 points and rebounds. Lucky for you guys, actually. I see some 32.5s floating around, so certainly take advantage of that. But a pretty big number for Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson's playing very well. He's kind of the last of the Mohicans. What I mean by that is this Memphis roster is just completely depleted due to various injuries. He's like the last man standing as far as the starters are concerned. He's still playing excellent basketball on both ends, but he's kind of in an interesting role offensively where he's their main scorer, and as a result, his efficiency has really struggled. His counting stats are solid, but yeah, he's not really fit, in my opinion, to be both the defensive anchor and then also their leading scorer, which he's kind of been. So this is a tough matchup. Of specifically, Cleveland is exceptional against opposing forwards. defensively. We know Evan Mobley back in the lineup as well as Darius Garland. Not sure if Garland's going to suit up today. Evan Mobley is expected to. But yeah, the front court of Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, then you have Isaac Okoro, who has really blossomed and emerged as a high-quality defender in the NBA. I think it's going to be a tough night for Jaren Jackson. I also could see Cleveland potentially blowing out a shorthanded Memphis team here as well. So for all those reasons combined, I think it's going to be a tough shooting night for Jackson. I think he could potentially not play a lot of minutes in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to go under 31.5 points and rebounds. Obviously, if you can find 32.5, I prefer that number. But either of those numbers look good to me.
Yeah, and some people in the chat are pointing out, hey, it's 34.5, but what you're missing there is Proppy's play is points and points and rebounds, not points, rebounds, and assists. So it's very easy to get confused there. You kind of have to, they offer you a couple things. It's the same in golf. And sometimes in golf, you really have to look for these matchups because sometimes they'll have tournament matchups as the default, but you have to actually scroll over, look to the right a little bit for round 1, 2 balls. Those are the round 1 matchups you're looking for. So again, every sport has sort of their intricacies. So make sure you're really dialed in and paying attention. This is a prop on points and rebounds on the under there. Speaking of basketball, we've got Larry, go ahead before our site play.
I just want to applaud Bucket's patience. He's just been sitting there so quiet and demure and paying attention while we ramble on about, golf and football and basketball. So just way to go, Buckets.
Well,
thank you.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Mike.
I just want to thank Larry for acknowledging that because I have horrendous ADD and sitting here for 10 minutes without saying a word is much more difficult than people might realize for me.
Well, there was no evidence of that ADD. When I actually went to you with an NFL question, you're like, oh, hey, sorry, zoned out. I don't know what to tell you. No response.
No comment.
Classic. All right. So let's go to an NBA pick. I assume Buckets has this one endorsed as well. The Knicks -3. That's our site pick. Listen, the site picks, I guess we went 1 and 2 yesterday, but overall the site picks on this show on the early edge have been doing really well. So Knicks -3 at -110. Of course, they're at home against the Pacers. Knicks have been playing good ball, so certainly like that play as well. Buckets, we got to get to you, okay? Like we got to get to you. We got to have you do some of the talking. We got to get to Larry because even though he's given out a pick already in the Super Bowl, he's got a pick tonight in college basketball. We got to get to that. We got to get to another site play. Man, this show we've got too much to offer at this point. But before we give you all of that, let's take one more small break.
Defending champion Justin Rose is part of an outstanding field competing at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am this weekend on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
All right, we are back. And Maestro, we're going to go to you before Buckets. You've got a college basketball pick to give out. What you got?
Yeah, we got to stick to the structure of the show. I'm sorry, Buckets. And I'm going to the Gauchos out in the Big West. They were picked to win this tournament, to win this conference. They've made it 2 of the past 3 years. They have won this conference tournament, but they started 0-3. But now they have gotten it together. They've won 5 out of 6. They have a great guard from Belgium, AJ Mitchell, averages 20 points a game. In the first meeting against UC Davis, he only had 12 points. That was on the road. They lost by 14. I love this revenge spot coming home. He is so much better at home. He shoots 59% from the field at home. He shoots 48% from deep at home. The Gauchos have turned it around. They are the best team, I believe, in that conference, or hopefully will show that the rest of the way. And I'm going to lay the points against UC Davis.
Suki MMA says, wow, they're testing Buckets so badly today. Ha ha. Okay, so Buckets, we finally got to get to you. Just kidding. We got to give out one more pick. We got to give out the site play in NCAA in college hoops. Buckets is so mad. Western Kentucky -4.5. They're at home against Sam Houston State. By the way, don't forget Tim Doyle came onto the show yesterday while he was on the way to calling that game, or at least traveling for that game. He gave out Northwestern plus the points. I believe that one covered. And by the way, he's calling this very game. So we got to watch. I think it's on CBS Sports Network. We got to watch that game, and we got to bet Western Kentucky -4.5. Okay. Buckets. It's time. You got to dial in now. We got to talk some soccer. You've got to pick. You have the floor. You don't even have to listen. I put you in the corner so much today, and it's not even my fault, really. It's not even. I blame Jake for all of this. But the point is, you can say whatever you want. It can be more than soccer. You've got the floor for the next couple minutes, sir.
See, I just want to double check. Is it still Thursday? I want to make sure I didn't miss my bet that is happening this afternoon. I think La Liga is still happening this afternoon, and I think Getafe is hosting Real Madrid. So that is where my bet is going to be. I'm going to La Liga at 3 p.m. this afternoon, and a really good matchup between Getafe and Real Madrid. And it's good because the lines are a little bit tricky here. Real Madrid obviously are the favorites here. They should win. They've got Jude Bellingham, who should score. Vinny Jr. should score. Joselu should score. Rodrigo should score. All these tremendous attackers. But what people might not realize is Getafe, who is a middle-of-the-pack team, is really, really good when they're playing only at home. Getafe has not lost a home fixture since April. So that's a long time for a team like Getafe to be holding on at home. Real Madrid right now, the better team, as I mentioned, but they are leaking goals. They have conceded now in 6 matches straight against all competitions. And Real Madrid's in a very tricky spot because not only do they have Getafe today, Sunday afternoon, they have to go and play against rivals Atletico Madrid. So this is kind of a game in which Real Madrid might be looking ahead and ignoring Getafe a little bit. For all of those reasons, I absolutely adore both teams to score at plus 100 here. This is a bet that for me should not be even odds because of how good Getafe is at home. I would play this all the way up to minus 130, minus 140 range because it wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of a shock fixture here and we see a 2-2 draw, maybe a 2-1, 3-1 win for Madrid. We should see goals, but BTTS should never be plus 100 when you have Getafe at home.
Wow, would play it up to minus 130, minus 140. That's tremendous value. By the way, Buckets, I got to say, I just noticed a comment in the chat from John Parker. I mean, you were courageous enough just a couple of days ago to talk to us about your father going through the back surgery, and understanding is that, you know, that was successful. He's got a long rehab ahead of him and he's doing well. But I do, with that in mind, I want to not acknowledge John Parker, who says, Sia, going through a rough patch at home with my wife's health. Any kind of good karma would be really appreciated. Love you all! ! So, John, I don't know what else to say except to reflect the words that you just put out. I mean, we're wishing your wife and your family just good fortune, good luck, and I hope she emerges from the health issue as best she possibly can. And I encourage everybody in the chat, because John Parker asked for it, please extend well wishes, I should say, to John Parker's wife, because clearly that's what he's looking for, and that's what he and his family need. So again, well wishes to John Parker. We don't want anybody in this community to be down at any time, and if we can help and do anything to lighten your day or just to make you feel any sort of comfort, that's what we're here to do. So anytime you're having an issue and you want to put it in the chat, I'm happy to address it. So this is a great chat because we're seeing all kinds of God bless you, John, and prayers, John, and thoughts and prayers to John Parker from everybody. So that is really good to hear. Buckets, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to jump in, John, and say, as someone who's going through family sickness as well, we can never overestimate kind of the toll that can take on your mental health as well, seeing a loved one going through whatever she may be going through. So just make sure that you're looking after her, you're looking after yourself, you're giving yourself time to process everything going on. Take care of your mental health, and just know that the Early Edge family will be here for you and your family throughout this process.
Yeah, and all betting aside, hopefully this show, just the show itself, aside from the bets, hopefully this serves as somewhat of a distraction, a good distraction for a lot of people from a day-to-day standpoint. That's what we're looking to do beyond the cashing bets. Speaking of cashing bets, let's transition to the recap screen. Let's take a look at what we're betting. Getafe, Real Madrid, both teams to score at plus 100. I've got a round one matchup, Sam Burns over Cam Young. Propstarz, Brandon Ayuk under 4.5 receptions for the Super Bowl. And then tonight he's got Jaren Jackson under 31.5 points and rebounds. Larry, the maestro's got Deebo Samuel over 57.5 receiving yards for the Super Bowl. And I threw out my little prop at plus 425 for Deebo to lead all receivers in receiving. And then tonight, Larry's got UCSB -4. And then the SportsLine side picks, Knicks -3, Western Kentucky -4.5. A lot of picks, a lot of sports. We try to do it all here. We'll do it all again for Big Pick Energy Friday tomorrow, which will, of course, feature Chip Patterson and Buckets and so many others. So make sure you tune in for that. A lot of content on the SportsLine YouTube channel coming up, including Inside the Lines. So don't forget that. We've got the prop show tomorrow at 4 o'clock for the Super Bowl. So much going on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being so active in the chat. Thanks for hitting the like button and doing all those things that you know help the show. For the here and now, we got to go. On behalf of Propstarz, on behalf of the Maestro, on behalf of Buckets, who I got to let talk a little bit more. I love hearing Buckets. I put him in the corner for way too long. Me and Jake are going to talk about it. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, this is the Early Edge. I am the counselor, and we rest our case.